And I ask for forbearance, please. We preached a 5-part series on the function and importance of the church. And I thought to myself, it's not a bad thing, but Jesus didn't come to teach us how to be good people. He didn't come to start a church. He came to do what we could not do for ourselves, to restore a relationship with God the Father in heaven. Last Friday, on Good Friday, Ken was saying, we showed a video. It was clips of the scenes out of the Passion of the Christ. If you've ever seen that movie, it's the reenactment of the crucifixion of Jesus. It is a very graphic description of the price he paid. And at the end of his suffering, he died. And the last scene on Easter morning, he's alive. And he holds out his hand to the disciple Thomas, doubting Thomas. And as he does, he turns it, and you can see the nail print in his hand. All theology and all doctrine, the Bible itself, even all of eternity, they all hang on one question. And I ask it of everybody in this room today. Do you believe Jesus Christ came out of the tomb? That's the pivotal question of this whole book. It leads up to that, or it concludes with that. It looks forward to that, or it looks back upon it. The question always is, do you believe that Jesus actually came out of the tomb? Luke 24, verse 1. On the first day of the week, early in the morning, certain women came. They had prepared spices and aloes, and they brought them to the tomb. But they found a stone had been rolled away from the tomb, and they went in and did not find the body of the Lord. And it happened, as they were greatly perplexed about this, behold, 2 men in white garments stood before them. And they were afraid, and they bowed their faces to the earth. They said to them, the angel said to them, why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here, but he's risen. Remember how he spoke to you when he was still in Galilee, saying, the Son of Man must be delivered to the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and on the 3rd day he'll rise again. Jesus told them that while they were still in the Galilee. And they remembered his words. Then they returned from the tomb and told all these things to the 11 and to all the rest that were gathered there. The pivotal question of your entire lifespan here on earth. Do you believe that Jesus Christ came out of the tomb? Do you honestly believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead? It's not a question that you owe an answer to me. You don't owe it to your parents, to the church. You owe it to yourself and to your God. Do you believe that he came out of the tomb? If not, the Bible's just a book of fables. Christianity's just another false religion. Churches are just community social centers. Jesus would have died in vain. And God is not who he said he is. And he is either a liar or he doesn't exist. And if you don't believe that Jesus came out of the tomb, there is no hope for you in this world. Sometimes we make Jesus out to be just a character in a play. He's a main character in a bunch of stories. He's very useful for stories that we tell our children. And over the centuries, unfortunately, fact has been intertwined with fiction. There's an awful lot of Santa in Christmas surrounding the birth of Jesus. And how did a bunny get interjected into the story of Jesus coming out of the tomb? Part of the problem is we're 2,000 years away from the event, and we didn't see it for ourselves. And therein lies the difficulty. It's easy to believe that Jesus was a real person. That's a historical fact. He was born, he lived, he died, he was a good man, he was a teacher. Extra-biblical historical sources like Josephus, who was not a religious man, he was a historian. He even talks about the man named Jesus who lived in Israel and was crucified. And he adds, some say he rose from the dead. It's easy to believe all those things. He was a good man and a teacher, that he lived and died. But do you believe that Jesus came out of the tomb? No one ever has. No one ever came out of the tomb before or since. It's not medically possible. It violates physical science. It's too incredible to believe. But do you believe it? Romans 10:9. I quoted it a little earlier. It's a very pivotal verse on the very subject we're talking about. If you confess Jesus Christ as Lord and believe in your heart God is raised him from the dead, you will be saved. We tend to make it a lot more complicated than that, but Paul said it very succinctly. If you profess Jesus as Lord with your lips and you believe in your heart that God is raised, and only you know that, only you know if you believe it in your heart. Everybody can profess him as Lord and Savior. That's the key. Many confess, but do you truly believe? We know everyone dies. We all know that. Everyone who ever founded a religion has died. Buddha died. Confucius died. Zoroaster died. Mohammed died. L. Ron Hubbard died. And they're still dead, and they're still in their tombs. Jesus died. But the question remains, is he still in his tomb? I counted the appearances of Jesus in the New Testament after the resurrection. There are thousands of appearances before. After he came out of the tomb. Matthew, Mark, and John said he first appeared to Mary Magdalene. Luke 24, he appeared to Peter on Sunday afternoon. Again, Luke 24, he appeared to two disciples, Cleopas and a friend walking on the road to Emmaus. John 20, he appeared to the disciples. Except for Judas and Thomas, he appeared to them in the upper room. That's where doubting Thomas got his name, because he wasn't there. But the next week, Jesus appeared again, and Thomas was there. And he said to Jesus, my Lord and my God. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians that Jesus appeared to all the apostles and 500 people besides. He even appeared to his own half-brother James. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all record the ascension, and there was a crowd there, an unnumbered crowd, that saw Jesus ascend into heaven. Even after the ascension, Jesus was seen 3 more times walking the face of the earth. Stephen saw him when he was being stoned. He said the heavens opened up, and he saw Jesus sitting at the right hand of God the Father in heaven. The Pharisee Saul on the road to Damascus was struck blind by a powerful light. It was Jesus. In Revelation 1, at the end of his life, the disciple John said he heard a great voice like a trumpet that said, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. John 11:42. Jesus went to the tomb of a man named Lazarus who had been dead for 3 days. And he prayed, Father, I know that you always hear me, but so that these people might believe. He said, Lazarus, come forth. The only reason he called Lazarus out of the tomb was so that the eyewitnesses would believe. But Lazarus was not resurrected. Lazarus died later. Jesus did not. Unbelief is our human nature. It's part of our fallen nature in sin. Mark 9 tells a story after the Mount of Transfiguration where Peter, James, and John went to the mountain with Jesus. When they came down, a man came up to Jesus. His son was possessed by an evil spirit, probably epilepsy. The boy was prone to fits of shaking and passing out, and he'd even fallen in the fire on more than one occasion. Jesus called his own disciples, you faithless generation. They had prayed for the boy, but to no avail. Jesus said to the Father, and it kind of echoes for a lot of us. He says, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. And the man said, Lord, I do believe. but help my unbelief. We all believe as hard as we can, but there's that part of us, help my unbelief. John knew this would be a problem for future generations. In John 6 and verse 30, the disciples ask for a sign, and Jesus says, "You shall receive no other sign but the sign of Jonah. As Jonah was 3 days and nights in the belly of the whale, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the earth." That's the only sign we'll receive. Christmas has become centered around Santa Claus, happy holidays. Easter circles around the bunny and the eggs, and spring holidays, spring break. It's easy to ignore the reason for Christmas and the reason for Easter. The world says God is dead. The world says Jesus never came out of the tomb. But my question to you today, as we prepare to leave, what do you say? How do you answer that question in your own heart? Not to me, not to your spouse. It's all a myth. You say it's all a fairy tale. You say it's all a lie. Let me ask you, would all of Christ's disciples have died a martyr's death, many of them brutally murdered, if they were telling a lie? Your whole eternity hangs on the answer to that one question. The most important question you will ever answer. And the answer to yourself and your God. Is he still in the tomb, or is he alive? What do you believe? I believe he's alive today. I believe he's coming again. I believe he's coming soon. I believe Christ is risen. I believe Christ is risen indeed. What do you believe? Amen. Kendra?